Triple H is now in charge of WWE. And I say that because one, I still can't quite believe it, and the shift happened so quickly, I feel like we're all running out of time. And two, you may not know. Maybe you've been living under the rock, not that guy, I mean a quite literal stone. I always like to keep people up to speed. But given that the game is now pulling the strings, it's time to fantasy book and it's time to become wrestling nerds. Because these are 10 things that he should probably change right now. Why? Here's why. Now we shall start with one that's already being teased on television. Makes me feel all excited down below, which sounds absolutely terrible. But yes, in at number 10, it is not only the reuniting of Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, but it is the fact they go on to become the tag team champions. Now this does make all the sense in the world, especially because KO has been walking around recently going, I'm a prize fighter, I want a prime. Now I do think eventually he's going to become the world champion again, but it doesn't look like there's an opening for that anytime soon. So if he is going to be hunting down titles, why not go after the tag? And of course you're already screaming at your television set because you're a bit weird. Oh my gosh, Simon, that makes all the sense in the world, because Sami Zayn is also feuding with the Usos right now, and who holds championship gold? It's the Usos. If you didn't get that, then I'm worried about you. It also means their friendship will be rekindled, and let's face it, anytime they are together, it does just work. And then, that's right, I'm thinking way into the future, Kevin Owens could turn on Sami much as he did down in NXT. You can do that while Kevin goes on to win that big world title. And then everything is happy in my life because this is what I need, and I'm a very, very odd person. And speaking of championships, let's just get it done, and let's get it done soon. In at number 9, not only the world title or the universal title coming back to Raw, giving it to damn Drew McIntyre. Because we all think this and we all know it's true. While it's been okay that Roman Reigns has been the super duper mega champion, if he is going to take some time off, which is he doing right now, we need to make sure we have the big belt in order to promote the show and get people excited. But on the other side of this is that Drew McIntyre just deserves his opportunity in front of a crowd, because the first time he won it, it was to crickets at WrestleMania 36, and the next time it was in the Thunderdome. And look, the Thunderdome was like a good creation for the pandemic, but when you compare it to actual screaming people, it don't work. So third time would be a charm, and you could probably do this in Cardiff, Wales, but just do it. That's all I care about. I don't even care if you have to come up with some weird stipulation where it's 2 out of 3 falls, and Roman wins the first one, which means he keeps the Universal Championship, and then McIntyre wins the second, meaning he becomes a WWE Champion. Then of course when they're back in the States, they will be on Raw. So just do this, and do it soon, because at the moment, it's a bit stupid. Which brings me to number 8, the opposite of stupidness, War Games. Now it is quite upsetting that William Regal won't be around to say that iconic phrase, but if you are Triple H, why wouldn't you do this? And in fact, the only reason we got the Elimination Chamber back in 2002 is because Paul Levesque went to Vince McMahon and said, oh man, we should do War Games at Survivor Series. And Vince went, ha ha ha, no pal, that's not my creation, so why don't we come up with one of our own? Well, we know that Hunter doesn't care about that because he was using it down in NXT all of the time. And I'm sick and tired of Raw versus SmackDown and the Survivor Series, so just turn it into War Games. That's it. That's all I need to say. Just find somebody else to blurt out the name, because that always made me chuckle. Let's just move on. And it is doubly important that we do that, because we need to talk about number 7. I mean, I have talked about this a lot on videos, but if I can find a way to worm it in, I always will. The proper reuniting of the Wyatt family. Now, of course, it's sad that we can't do this properly because the late, great Brody Lee has passed away, but we still have enough members to make this work. I mean, Eric Rowan is out there, you could bring back Braun Strowman. I've already said in the past that T-Bar would make a great addition to this, but the main point is that you rehire Bray Wyatt, you say, Bray, we're so sorry that we never allowed you to be the Eater of Worlds properly, but enough time has passed. Now let's get in there and make it right. Because that version of Bray should have been the WWE Champion, and he should have been one of the spookiest WWE Champions of all time. And even though I've just said that, you don't actually have to make him WWE Champion because the character was enough. Now, don't get this confused with The Fiend either. A big criticism of The Fiend was all like, well, he can't ever lose and he can't get beaten because he's supposed to be a magic monster. That wasn't the same with the rocking chair Bray Wyatt. He was easily defeatable, which was the problem. Everybody beat him. But given that everybody and their dog is now coming back to WWE after they have been released, if Wyatt isn't on that list and we don't try again, I'm going to do this with my hands forever. And believe you me, Not only do I look stupid, I cannot see. Which brings us to number 6, where I don't actually like the terminology, but sadly we do have to talk in wrestling talk. Triple H should make a smaller wrestler the world champion. Now I know that Vince McMahon has done that in the past. We could talk about Daniel Bryan, or we could talk about Rey Mysterio, but you could also criticize those title reigns, especially Rey's. I mean, flub me, they made him look like a joke. So what I would do is I would take someone like a Ricochet, I would take someone like a Mustafa Ali, I would take somebody like a Johnny Gargano, I would come up with some amazing story that culminated with them becoming the WWE champion, and then I'd book them as an actual threat, and I'd book them as someone that deserves to be the champion, and then I'd look around at my ratings, I'd look around at my statistics, I'd look around at my fans, and I would decide, well, wait a minute, if this is actually working, all of a sudden the door is open to make more smaller guys your world champ. And even then you probably shouldn't stop, because it will work with some people and it won't work with others. You just have to throw things against the wall and see what's going to stick. Now, of course, if you go outside of the walls of WWE, this is happening here, there, and everywhere, but World Wrestling Entertainment has always been a big guy's company, and it's time for that to change. And speaking of change, number 5, you got to get rid of the 24/7 title. And I was one of its few defendants for a long while there, because I thought when WWE got the goofiness right, it did make me laugh a little bit. But it is long past the shark, nobody cares about it anymore. And now that WWE proved that they can book 3-hour shows without having to resorting to whatever that was, just can it. It would be better for everyone. I mean, if you do like it, there's 1,000 other things you could do in order to be an absolute moron. And also, Dana Brooke walks around with it at the moment and doesn't even talk about it. It would be like me putting a wig on my head and trying to pretend that was real. You just know, so you may as well be honest with people. Also, WWE don't even stick to the damn rules. It was meant to be 24/7, and then they went, oh yeah, but only when we say so. Number 4 may actually be my personal preference out of all of this list, however. We got to start making good entrance themes again. And this is nothing against the current people who are churning these out, but let's take Sami Zayn for the second time in this list. His previous music was so damn good and it suited the character so well, and then when we do change it, it is just generic Rock 3. Like, it's actually da-na, da-da-da-da, which I swear used to be the background music in WWE Warzone. I'm not saying you have to bring back Jim Johnston or anything like that, but let's sit down and treat it as a matter of importance and actually listen to these things. When they're as uninspired as some of them are, let's scrap it and come up with something else. I mean, this was Triple H, the king of the entrance. It gets so bad that sometimes a track will play, and me, somebody who watches every single show, is like, well, I don't know who this is, and I have to look at the big screen and wait for the name. That means something has gone very, very wrong. Let's fix it. Which is also where number 3 comes in. Triple H was responsible for NXT 1.0, and one of their favourite things to do was cliffhangers. Let's do more of them. Now, we have had some of these, because at the end of one Raw, Dexter Lumis arrived and tried to kidnap some people. But that's like a one and done, it's a debuting wrestler, and it comes with its own connotations. I'm talking about the stuff where you see somebody celebrating, and the little NXT graphic copyright label thing in the corner of the screen is up there to make you go, ha ha, the show is over, when all of a sudden they get jumped or whatever the hell you want to do, and it just tells you, well, you better tune into next week, otherwise you don't know what's happening. It's not like wrestling hasn't done this for years. I remember way back in the late 90s when Farouk convinced Ahmed Johnson to join the Nation of Domination. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. I was basically a fetus at this point, and I was so shocked that Ahmed had turned his back on me, I went and watched all of the WWFB programming. Hopefully, somebody would give me an answer. But of course, it was only on Raw where I got all of these, and you bet your ass I went out of my way to watch it. I was desperate to know. So if we can do it with Ahmed Johnson, we can do it again now. As we can with number 2, Ciampa's on Raw, Johnny Gargano's on Raw. Let's just reunite DIY. Which actually ties into my number 10. I'm gonna keep this nice and short. Basically what I'm doing here is I'm trying to manifest into existence Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus DIY for the United Tag Team Championships, the Raw Tag Team Championships, the SmackDown Tag Team Championships, whatever we're going to do. Put your hand up if that's not a match you want to see. Everybody's hands goes down. And if yours is still up, well, I'm very sorry, your invitation to my birthday party just got cancelled. But you can still enjoy number 1 when the Royal Rumble does come round again. Because once more, given that Triple H is in charge, it's time to book a surprise winner. And I don't mean like when Asuka won it a few years ago during the first ever Women's Royal Rumble. Like when she did get the victory, I was like, well, of course, that could be a possibility. She's really good. I am talking about taking somebody who is firmly in the mid-card, a Chad Gable, for example, having them win the Royal Rumble to the point that's where their push begins. So we use the event as a tipping point. They go on to WrestleMania, and if you can tell the narrative in the right way, they can become the champion. And oodalali. I mean, let's compare this to somebody like Jinder Mahal when he won the championship in 2017. The only reason that didn't work is because one week he was opening the show and the next week he was being Randy Orton. If he had won the Royal Rumble and we had treated this with kid gloves and ensured it did work, I think people would have been more accepting even if he had won it at the granddaddy of them all. It would just send such a statement to both wrestlers and fans, especially because when we got to the next Royal Rumble, every single entrant number would make you go, well, maybe they will win, because look what happened 12 months ago. Because at the moment we do have the problem where there's like five people who could actually be standing tall, and 3 of them are Roman Reigns. That doesn't make any sense. I mean, it really is something I thought WWE would have done a handful of times by now, and while we have had a few, well, I didn't see that coming. Once more, that ain't what I'm talking about. I am talking about taking a risk. Make it so. Know of any other changes that Triple H should be sanctioning right now? Make sure you let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Then head over to whatculture.com where you can read yourself some articles, come back this way and follow us on social media at whatculturewwe and Simon316. And then go to the YouTube channel, well, you're already there. Click the name in that corner, go back to the home page, and please watch another video. My name is Simon for What Culture. Thank you for joining me as always. I am so jet lagged, I feel like I could just fall asleep on camera. That would be boring and also probably get fired. I want none of these things. Goodbye.